Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be ranking all 43 brawlers in the game from best to worst. So as you guys probably know by now, I did reach 50k trophies last season, so I played a lot of ladder recently, grinded the game a lot, and also played a lot of scrims. So I feel like my understanding of the meta in general in terms of ladder and competitive is going to be really good. And just so you guys are aware, this is at the high end of ladder, so above 1000 and competitive as well. So these are going to be my ranking depending on like how actually good they are. It might be different, and the lower end of a spectrum in trophies, different brawlers could be good in that end, but at the higher end, that's where it shows what's actually good in the meta. So just a disclaimer for that one. So without further ado, let's jump into the worst brawler. So number 43, and as the worst brawler in the game in my opinion, is going to be El Primo. El Primo just really sucks in the meta, especially with a lot of Colt and bees and a lot of brawlers that break up a lot of the map. Primo just really isn't that good. He's only good when tanks are in a meta, and again, this really isn't a tank heavy based meta at all. And even in Brawl, that used to be his best mode, there's not even a load of tanks in there, so I really struggle to push El Primo in this meta. By far the hardest brawler to push in my opinion. Let's jump into number 42. So number 42, it is Shelley, and for this one I was debating on whether to put Shelley last just because of how much she sucks in the meta as well. She did recently get 2 buffs in the last set of balance changes, which helped her a little bit, but again, the meta, just 0 tanks in the meta. And even when Shelley faced off against tanks, she's not even got the best matchup. There's far better brawlers than Shelley to deal with tanks, and that's, as I said, the only good matchup she's going to get. She is a starter brawler. I will always say this about her. She doesn't need to be good in the meta because she needs to just be really easy to pick up and play from the start for all the beginner players in the game. But Shelley, yeah, just absolutely sucks at the moment. Not really a place for her in the meta, unfortunately. So number 41 is going to be Jessie, and this is a recurring theme with Jessie in every meta for like the past 1 or 2 years now. She's always in like the bottom 5, bottom 6 brawlers in the meta, but again, she really does suffer in this meta. There's not really a place for her at all. There's a couple of good maps where you can push her on. There's a few gem grab maps, a few Brawl maps. She can be pushable on like Safe Zone and Kaboom as well for heist, but just overall, she never will be reaching in the competitive end of the spectrum. Just so many different brawlers that are better than her, and unfortunately, one of these brawlers again that's just really good at the lower end of ladder and beginner players. So there's just no way she's really going to be in the higher tier, else she'll just basically break the game. So coming in at number 40, it is a Crow, and again, he's at one of the lowest brawlers in the game right now, just mainly because he just doesn't have enough DPS or HP to deal with any brawlers in the game, especially all the meta brawlers. I'll say the only viable game mode for him outside of Showdown is Gem Grab. He actually can be decent on a few maps like Undermine, like Crystal Arcade. He's actually fairly pushable on, but other than that, Brawl just really isn't a meta for him at the moment. So many better brawlers than him. You've also got, like, for example, Colt's gadget that can basically one-shot him, and even though he's had a few buffs with his 2 gadgets, made him a little bit more viable, but in terms of competitive, he will never ever be picked, unfortunately, so that's going to be Crow. So number 39 is Gale. So this is one of the brawlers where I see in the comment section a lot of the times that people think that Gale's really underrated. For me, in the higher end of competitive, again, Gale just absolutely sucks in this meta. I would say the only 2 modes where you can even push him on, or even begin to even think about pushing him on, is Siege and Hot Zone. You can be okay on some of those maps, and in 1v1 interactions, he can be okay against the longer range brawlers when you're using the slow style power. But just overall, there's so many different options to pick rather than Gale, and he's just one of them brawlers which doesn't really have a map or mode that really suit him. It just basically sucks at that moment. So at number 38 is Amber, and Amber used to be one of the best brawlers in the game, and ever since they nerfed her, she's just absolutely sucked again in the meta. It's one of these brawlers that people seem to think is really underrated. For me, I just feel like Amber just absolutely sucks in this meta. There's a few maps that she can be fairly decent on to push on, but again, another one of these brawlers that I really struggled to push because she's not really got any good matchups. Her best matchups were tanks, and there's no way that tank's going to be viable in this meta. The few modes that she's decent on are Hot Zone and Siege. Again, she can be fairly pushable on Siege as a lane. Other than that, not really many options you can push Amber in, unfortunately. Maybe she'll get in buff in the next set of balance changes. She's badly in need of one. So at number 37, we have Leon. Leon, another brawler just like Crow, which will always be at the lower end of things. And I've always wanted a new gadget for Leon to give him a bit of life into the meta, because in 3v3, he really isn't good. In terms of Brawl, he can be pushable on some maps, and then Gem Grab as well. They're probably the 2 best maps for Leon. I would say, personally, Gem Grab, because it's actually a really good lane, again, on maps like Undermine, Crystal Arcade. It can be okay in certain 1v1 situations. But other than that, Leon just always has sucked in the meta. His reload speed is too slow for him to keep up. So at number 36, we have Dino. I really wanted to put Dino a lot higher than this, but the other main reason for this one is a lot of Edgar in the meta currently, and Edgar just completely dominates Dynamite. But in terms of pushing Dynamite on ladder, he actually is a good brawler on Siege. For example, some assembly required a really good map for Dynamite, and he actually is really high on a competitive tier list on that map specifically. There's a few maps that he can be good on. For example, as well, the 7 new Brawl maps that came out really favor Dynamite in the fact that he counters brawlers like Colt and Rico. He's really pushable on there. I've not really had too many problems pushing Dynamite in this meta, to be honest. Way better than some of these brawlers, but just because of the fact that he's only limited to those certain maps, Dynamite can be really hard to play and easily countable by aggro brawlers. So at 35, we have Ems, another one of these brawlers that really suffered in the meta. She was last meta about a year ago now, ever since they changed the gadget on her and things like that. But she has got a recent buff with hype, making her a little bit more viable on ladder. But in terms of where you want to push her, I'd only really say that maybe like Siege and Hot Zone. Hot Zone is probably the biggest one to push Ems on. All the other modes for her, really, she just gets counted by near enough every single brawler in the game, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that Ems will find a little bit more love in the next balance changes, because she's been one of the worst brawlers in the game for a long while now. So at number 34, we have Rosa. So I wanted to put Rosa pretty far down on the list. But in terms of competitive, Rosa's actually a really underrated pick in competitive. When there's a certain amount of bans, she can be really good at there. In terms of ladder, it can be really hard to find a good place to push Rosa. Just because, like El Primo, you've got a lot of brawlers in the meta right now that just destroy a bunch of walls, and that's really not what you want for Rosa as well, and destroy all of her grasses. So you could be using all of your gadgets up, and for example, you could just have a Colt and just destroy all the grass straight away, and that's not really good for Rosa at all. But she's going to be more pushable on game modes like Hot Zone and game modes like Gem Grab. So at number 33 on the list, we have BB, another one of these brawlers which doesn't really have one of those standout game modes. I would say for BB, she's just okay across every single game mode. Her best modes are going to be Siege, just for collecting those bolts, and then also probably like Brawl, for example. When in combination with a heal brawler, she can be really good. She actually works really well with Byron, for example. I would say she's really comp dependent. And to be honest, as I said, just really average brawler. Doesn't really succeed in the meta at all, but she's just fairly decent. So at number 32, we have Frank. And Frank, another one of these tanks that just aren't really good in the meta currently, but he has a lot of game modes which he can be viable on. We have Brawl, we have Siege, and we have Hot Zone as well, where he's going to be good on. And for the main reason for this one is because Jackie is so meta, and the hardest counter to Jackie is Frank. Frank just absolutely destroys Jackie, and that's why in competitive and on ladder, you'll see a lot of Frank. On a lot of different maps, you'll see Jackie on. So if you're facing a lot against Jackie, just bring out a Frank. You should be having an easy time against that one for sure. But he's actually a fairly decent brawler, as I said, in the meta right now. He can be pushed on multiple game modes and a really good tank option. At number 31, we have my favorite brawler, Gene. And unfortunately, he's always around the top 8 in the meta, and he's been absolutely killed in the last set of balance changes. There's been about 3 or 4 nerfs to him, and unfortunately, he just pretty much sucks everywhere right now. The main modes you want to be pushing him on is Siege. I feel like Siege, he actually is fairly decent because you see a lot of loot on Siege, and he's just really good just in that game mode in general. He's always been good in that mode. Brawl just really isn't a meta for him at the moment. There's a lot of missed Ps and stuff like that counter him. I would say if you're looking to push Gene, you need near enough all the time like a max in the comp. That can be a really good combination. The max Gene comp will always be good, especially with those heals, but I wouldn't say he's as bad as people make out. I've been playing him quite a bit on scrims at the moment and been having a good success rate, as I said, on Siege. Gem Grab, there's way better mids than him, so I only say Siege and Brawl the modes you can push him in. So number 30 on the list, we have Bo, and I really wanted to put Bo a lot lower on the list, but just because of how good he is at bounty, he's got to be really high. Well, not really high. 30 on the list isn't that high, but it's going to be higher than the others below him just because of his involvement in bounty. And that's mainly due to the Bo and Nanny strategy. Literally, the only reason why he's even okay in the meta is because of that super totem. It's so good in combination with Nanny, basically giving him a free super that whole time. And that Nanny comp's going to be literally the comp to go to on, I would say, pretty much every single bounty map. If he's struggling to find a comp, that's where he's good. And he's no longer a good mid in Gem Grab. You can't use him in Brawl at all anymore. And before, you could just use his tripwire gadget and he'd be good everywhere. But now they've basically killed that gadget and he just doesn't have any viability in the meta at all. At 29, we have Penny. I would go as far to say as Penny probably is one of the most underrated brawlers in the game right now. The main reason for this one is because she counters the likes of Mr. P, 8-Bit, and Pam. All of them brawlers are so strong in the meta right now. And Penny's a really underrated pick, and especially in competitive as well. We're starting to see a little bit more Penny being played. For example, there's a lot of Pam and 8-Bit in the gem grab meta, and that's where Penny can be used to counter those brawlers, and that's one of the main reasons why she's in the meta. That turret is a really good job at taking down other enemy turrets. She's really good across a bunch of different game modes. She's just solid pick overall in terms of like gem grab. She's a decent gem carrier. Brawl, she can be played viable on Heist. There's a few modes maps you can play her on, and also Siege as well. She's just a balanced brawler overall and has a decent place in the meta. At 28, we have a Bull. So Bull, another one of these brawlers that obviously is a tank and not really the best spot in the meta right now, but just because of how good he is in Heist, he's such a good brawler in Heist in competitive on a certain few maps. He can be pushable in Brawl as well with the likes of Poco. He's a really versatile tank in the fact that he can play both gadgets and both star powers. I just feel like he's in a good place at the moment. Not really the strongest, not really the weakest. He's just fairly decent. So coming in at number 27, we have Daryl. Daryl, another one of these brawlers that really doesn't have like a key strong mode. He's just decent everywhere. His best mode probably would be Heist, but then again, you do get a lot of Colette on Heist, which can be a really big problem for him. But in terms of the meta, he actually is really good when he has his role. He's really super dependent. So if you can land that role on brawlers, you're going to be having a good time, because a lot of the brawlers at the moment in the meta, he can counter pretty well with that role. There's quite a lot of squishy brawlers in the meta, and that's why he's thriving a little bit more than before. When there was more tanks in the meta, Daryl just really not good against his fellow counterparts. But as I said, every single mode you could probably get away with pushing Daryl. So coming in at number 26, we have Colt. And when the balance changes drops, I predicted Colt to be probably number 1 brawler in the game still. And now, since the meta has evolved, he's an average brawler at best in the meta. And it's mainly because of the range nerf. The range nerf really hindered him. For some reason, I didn't think it would impact him that much, but it really has had a huge impact on him. And then also meta brawlers like Anita, like Edgar, like Jackie, they're 3 of his hardest counters, and they're all meta brawlers, and he just really struggles against those type of brawlers. But Colt is pretty much good everywhere in the meta, so you can still get away with pushing him. So Brock is coming in at number 25, and another one of those brawlers that used to be really good in the past meta, but ever since they nerfed him heavily with the HP, with the damage nerf, it has hindered him in the meta a lot. And a lot of brawlers just seem to out damage him, just seem to kill him really easily because of how squishy he is. He has the same HP as Spike now. That's just how squishy he is. And the main reason why he's even viable in the meta at the moment is because of his fat rocket is being able to break up the map. It counters a lot of different brawlers. I'll say his best game modes right now, Brawl, he's really good in. He can be really good in Heist as well. There's certain maps where he absolutely dominates them because he can get away with breaking those walls that are really important. But other than that, I feel like Brock really isn't in the best spot. So at 24, we have Barley, and again, the meta doesn't suit him as much as I would like because there's a lot of Edgar in the meta, and that just completely destroys Barley. But in terms of certain modes, Siege is where you want to be pushing Barley the most. He's still really, really good in Siege because of the amount of damage he can do to the enemy Ike. He'll still always be good in Siege as well because of that gadget, being able to heal 3 people at the same time. Really, really good. And then across certain modes, he's just fairly decent in, and I've placed him this well as high as other brawlers because in competitive, when there's a lot of bans, for example, like one of the best brawlers, Edgar, Barley actually is a super, super good pick. So it's just really dependent, map dependent brawler Barley is right now. But I'll say he's in an average spot at the moment. Tara is making our way into number 23, and Tara has received a few nerfs in the last balance changes, but it's more so that other brawlers have got buffs around her. For example, like Anita and Mr. P. Mr. P is a really good counter to Tara, and one of the main reasons why she's not as meta as she could be. Tara is just only good on Brawl and Gem Grab. I'll say she's solid picks on them, but not really the best, and hence why she's not as good under meta as she once was. So at 22, we have Poco, and although this really isn't a tank meta, the main reason why tanks can even be played on game modes like Gem Grab and Brawl is mainly due to Poco. Poco is still a really good brawler in himself, just because he's got so much healing. He's got the gadget, he's got his super that deals a lot, and he's got his star power that heals a lot as well. So all of these mechanics just make tanks still good. And in terms of competitive as well, Poco's still a highly picked brawler. It's just, as I said, you don't see him nowhere near as much as you used to because now there's a lot of different brawlers that can deal with tanks, but he's still a good brawler in the metal. So at 21 is Tick, and I actually want to place Tick a little bit higher, but the Colt gadget unfortunately probably is going to counter him a little bit too much. But in terms of game modes to push Tick on, Brawl, the 7 new Brawl maps that have actually gone into the rotation really do favor Tick. He's actually a super good brawler on those maps because he counters the likes of Colt at range once those gadgets are gone, and then Rico as well. And the maps really favor him. There's a lot of walls and throwers are really dominant on those maps, and that's one of the main reasons why he's as high as I said. And then also there's game modes like Bounty. Tick will always be a Bounty brawler. He's so good on Bounty. And then Siege as well, he can be pushable on. So next up on the list, we have Sprout, another one of these brawlers where he's actually really good in competitive, is not as good on a ladder. But the 3 game modes that really stand out for Sprout in terms of ladder is going to be like Gem Grab as a gem carrier. It's going to be Siege. He's actually a fairly decent pick on Siege. And then you have Bounty, just like Tick. Sprout is really good on Bounty. Always will be one of those brawlers that's really good on Bounty because he counters the traditional like Piper, like Tick. He counters really well, but he's a super versatile brawler. The only struggle is it's going to be the really aggro brawlers like the tanks and the Edgars, but he's good in the meta so far. So number 19, we have Spike. And Spike, one of these brawlers, just like Tara, used to be absolutely everywhere in the meta in terms of gem grab and Brawl, but now because other brawlers are strong in the meta, he's slowly getting a bit worse in the meta. And he also received a small nerf as well, but he's really versatile in still game modes like gem grab and Brawl. He's still a decent pick. He's not as dominant as before. The curveball meta probably isn't as good as before. I would say Fertilize is more meta, especially to deal with the likes of Edgar. Edgar is going to be a big problem, and Spike is normally brought out to counter Edgar. Really good counter for sure, but he's also good on Siege as well now with that Fertilize start power. He's just a really versatile brawler overall. So at 18, we have Mortis. So he's gone down a little bit in the meta just because there's just a much better version of him currently in Edgar. You can just get like a free super and jump everyone. That's what I kind of compare Mortis to at the moment, but unfortunately, as I said, Edgar's better. But anyways, talking about Mortis, Mortis is really good in game modes like Brawl, Gem Grab, and Bounty. And before, he used to be a bit of a meme in Brawl, but he genuinely is a really good brawler right now. The only thing is he can't go for the ball like he used to. Like, people just think they're like Messi going with the ball, doing all of his cool trick shots. That's not how to play him at all. He's really good at killing the squishy brawlers, just like Rico, just like Mr. P. He's really good at taking those brawlers down, and that's why he's so good in the Brawl Meta. So at number 17, we have Rico, and I've been crying out for a buff to Rico for a long time now. In the last set of balance changes, we did get a good buff to Rico's star power, and that has increased his viability in the meta for sure. And also the 7 new Brawl maps, again, as I said, they favor throwers, and they also favor Rico and Colt a lot. Rico is amazing on all 7 of these Brawl maps, and you'll be seeing him everywhere on ladder on these 7 Brawl maps. That's why I've ranked him so high, because of how easy it is to push him on these certain maps. There's just so many walls, you can just bounce his shots everywhere. He's a top tier brawler in those maps specifically. And then Heist as well, he's one of the best brawlers in Heist. They're the 2 game modes you'll be looking to push him in. So Nani is at number 16 on the list, and this is mainly due to how good she is on Bounty. I'll say she's the best brawler on Bounty by far, just mainly because of that strategy again. But as a standalone brawler, she can be really good. It all depends on the map and mode for sure. On really open maps, she's a really amazing gem carrier as well, and on Brawl as well. And in the competitive meta, there's a lot of Nani in play at the moment, but I'll say she's extremely map and mode dependent. So at number 15, we have Piper. Piper has recently received a small buff to her sniping star power. This has allowed her to thrive even more in the meta. May seem like a small buff, but for sure she's really strong. I would say the 2 biggest modes for her, as always, are Bounty and Gem Grab. She's probably the best mid inside of Gem Grab right now, bar 8-bit, and she's a really good counter to 8-bit. That's one of the main reasons why she's so good in Gem Grab. And as well, as I mentioned, she's really good across a lot of different modes. It's really map dependent. Wherever 8-bit is good on, Piper can always be used there. Even though she's got a bit of a slow reload speed, with that sniping, it can be really good to counter. So at 14, we have Colette, and although she's not the strongest brawler on any single mode, I would say she's good everywhere except for Bounty right now. She's really good in Gem Grab at just countering the likes of Pam and all of those tanks. And I feel like she'll always be good in the meta, especially with the buffs she got as well recently. She'll just be good because she can counter tanks. There's also a lot of Pam and 8-bit, and Colette is an amazing counter to Pam and 8-bit, especially in competitive as well. You'll be seeing people bring out Colette all the time to counter Pam, and that's why she's so strong in the meta. So at number 13, we have Lou, and Lou is the best brawler inside of Siege, hence why he's so high on the list. Lou can basically solo defend a Siege bot, and it's just completely broken his super and the freeze mechanic on top of that Siege bot. And then we also have him really good in hot zone as well. That single super can lock down a full zone easily. You can just keep cycling over and over again. He's super underrated in the meta right now. You also have gem grab. He can be good as a mid or a lane depending on the map, and he's just really good across the board. So at number 12, we have Sandy, one of these brawlers that hasn't been strong in the meta for a while now, but he's fairly decent in this meta just because of his presence in game modes like Hot Zone, like Siege, Gem Grab, Brawl. He's really good across all of his modes. And in terms of competitive as well, I'll say he's a very top tier brawler in competitive. You always see him in game modes like Siege, for example. He's probably one of the best brawlers in Siege right now because of his combinations you can have with a lot of different brawlers, and he's just viable pretty much everywhere right now. He's not super strong nor super weak. So at number 11, we have Sergio. Sergio is always going to be good in the meta when he's got such a strong gadget. His gadget allows him to basically 2 or 3 tap certain enemy brawlers, and as long as you know your calculations on whether you can go in and TP on them, you're going to be having a good time with Serge, especially when you get his 3rd level as well. It'll allow you to compete with the longer range brawlers as well. So what I can think, for example, the brawlers like Colt, Rico, the brawlers that are really strong in the meta, he can just work his way through them with ease, and he's pretty much good across every single mode. So starting off the top 10, we have Jackie. So Jackie right now is so strong in the meta, and the main reason for this again is she's the strongest counter to Edgar, one of the brawlers in which Edgar will not win that 1v1. So that is why Jackie is so good. She recently got a buff to her damage, and this allows a lot of different interaction changes, which a lot of people may not really know, but one big one as well is Mortis. Jackie can 3-tap Mortis, and as well as Sandy, I believe, as well, can 3-tap Sandy. So it's some really key interaction changes with Jackie. There's also some Brawl maps that really favor her, the ones with lots of walls on. I'm seeing her pretty much everywhere in terms of Brawl on those maps. She's really good on Hot Zone. She's probably one of the best Siege brawlers right now, picking up the Bolt. And she's just amazing across the board right now. So at number 9, we have Max. And Max, one of these brawlers that hasn't been touched in the meta for a long time now. I feel like she's been one of the best brawlers in the meta for around 6 months. And she's just so good because, again, of her versatility. She's so good across so many different maps, so many different modes. She can fit into basically near enough every single comp in the game right now. She can be used with Jean. She can be used with double tank as well. I'll say her best mode at the moment is probably Heist. She stands really good as a standalone brawler as well because the amount of damage she actually deals. She's got a really good gadget as well, being really good in Brawl. You can get so many good goals with that speed and gadget combination. She's just so strong across the board right now. So coming in at number 8, we have Pam, and oh my, she is very thick in this meta right now. She's so good across every single mode except for Bounty, especially in competitive as well. I'll say she's one of the highest tiers in that ranking. You see literally her everywhere. In terms of gem grab, she's always used as a lane. Siege, she's used a lot more. Hot Zone, she's one of the best brawlers in Hot Zone. You always see her to counter a lot of different brawlers. And if you watch competitive on this channel or just watch it in scrims, you'll always see her in play. And that's why I said for the likes of like Colette is why she's so good in the meta, because she counters Pam. But she's amazing with these buffs as well. She's got a buff to her healing inside of that super. She's got a buff to her star power as well. She's just so strong across the board, and it's just amazing to see how strong she is. So at number 7, we have 8-Bit, and 8-Bit, oh, he's so strong in this meta right now. It does depend a little bit too much on his star power, but across the board, he is so strong. Gem grab, you can play him either as a mid or a lane. He's so strong with that super. You've also got his buff to the super damage, 50% more for everyone, all your teammates inside of that turret. That's just insane. 50% extra damage. It just actually creates so much damage across the field overall. And then you've got how versatile he is across every single mode. I'll say he's probably a top 5 brawler across every single mode right now. He kind of is a little bit too map dependent as well. You need a long range map for him to be good on, but when there's a long range map, there's nothing that can really beat him except for like a Piper maybe to counter him. He's so strong. He's got so much range, so much damage. You've got a really versatile gadget as well. He's one of the strongest brawlers in the game right now. So coming in at the 6th best brawler in the game right now, in my opinion, it's going to be Anita. And with the last set balance changes, I just knew Anita was going to be easily a top 10 brawler in the meta. Those buffs were insane, especially the Bear With Me star power just made her such a good brawler right now. In terms of ladder, I basically see Anita everywhere in Brawl right now. Every single comp I'll be seeing Anita because of how strong she is, especially with the cycling of those bears. That's going to be the main reason why she's meta, but also because you can use her on multiple modes. She's really good in gem grab right now. She's a really good brawler in hot zone, and she's just fairly decent everywhere. Heist as well. If you get that bear on safe with hyper bear, you can basically use her with every single build. You can either go with a Bear With Me and the Fox Foe kind of combination, or you can go with a hyper bear and the stun combination. There's so many different builds you can get with Anita. She's so strong. So finally moving into the top 5, and we're starting off with Mr. P. Mr. P, with the last set of balance changes, only increased his damage, and it didn't really seem like a lot. I thought he'd be a little bit more viable in the meta, but he's so strong in the meta right now. You can use him across every single game mode. You can bring him into play to counter the likes of the squishy brawlers. It deals pretty well with tanks now. I'd say the biggest counter to him the Jackies and the Edgars, but still, even at that, if you keep your distance at Edgar, I think you can actually 4-shot him. He's just so versatile in the fact that you can pretty much put him in every single comp, even in game modes like Heist and Bounty. He doesn't do a lot of damage, but because of the annoying factor of his porters keep spawning over and over again, revealing the position of enemies, he's got a good gadget as well. I just feel like he's one of the most perfect brawlers in the meta right now. So coming in at the 4th best brawler in the meta at the moment, it's going to be Edgar. So Edgar is one of these brawlers where you can basically just press that green button and get a free super. He's so annoying on ladder at the moment because I think as probably every single brawler in the game, he can win a 1v1 against bar Jackie. There's certain situations where you can counter him, but it's so hard to prevent him over and over again. And the thing is, you can just keep popping that green gadget. You've got 3 green gadgets to use, and if you're playing Edgar good anyway, you can keep cycling the supers over and over again. And the brawlers he hard counters a lot, like the throwers, the squishy brawlers. It's going to be so easy to keep taking them down over and over again. Edgar is amazing on every single game mode. I'll probably say that gem grab maybe is his best mode, just because he can keep jumping on that gem carrier over and over again. There isn't like a Gene in the meta that can keep knocking him up and countering him. I feel like if Gene is meta, it'll be Edgar will be worse in the meta, but Edgar is so strong. As I said, wins 1v1 interactions against basically everyone. So coming in at the 3rd best brawler in the meta, in my opinion, it's going to be B. And to be honest, it's all going to be because of that green button. Her gadget, Rattled Hive, is absolutely insane. It makes her viable on every single game mode because all you need to do is press the green button and let it do all the work. It can deal up to 3k damage, and also it can deal up to 9k damage across the board if you hit every single enemy on the map. In terms of Brawl, I would say she's probably the best brawler on Brawl because of how much pressure that green gadget does. It's absolutely insane. B is so dominant everywhere right now. There's not many brawlers that can actually counter her. So coming in as the 2nd strongest brawler in the meta right now, it's kind of hard to actually determine whether it was number 1 or 2, but I'm going to go with number 2. It is Byron. Byron is absolutely insane on ladder at the moment. He's so strong, and I'm kind of curious as to why he's not used on ladder so much. That's probably why I've put him as number 2, but in terms of competitive, he for sure is the strongest pick right now because you can play him on every single mode. You can use him as a supportive brawler to heal up your teammates to win their lane, or you can just absolutely wreck mids. He basically no brawler that counters him in the mid section. He has the same range as Piper and B, I believe, and most of the time as a Byron, you should be countering those brawlers because it's a lot easier to hit the shots with Byron. There's so much versatility to Byron, and especially with the star power that's set to be released in a day's time. If you're watching this video, you can actually pierce through your teammates and hit the enemy at the same time, so you can heal and deal damage. He's going to be even more insane once that star power comes out. He's just so strong across the board. So coming in as the strongest brawler in the meta right now, I'm going to go ahead and say Colt. So Colt on ladder everywhere, he's absolutely everywhere. In terms of Brawl, he's probably in every single comp because of that green gadget. That green gadget button, as I'll keep saying it over and over again, he has a 3k gadget that can basically win every single matchup for him, especially brawlers that are around 4k HP. He could just stand behind a wall, press that green button, deal 3k damage, and then just auto-aim the rest and just basically kill him. Just keep doing that over and over again. That gadget can also break up walls, and if you keep cycling, Super's breaking up the map. Colt is insane. He also got a buff to his damage. I think it's about 504 per bullet, and that is insane. He deals so much damage as well. And the main reason why he's number one, I would say, is basically because of versatility. I'll see him everywhere on ladder in comparison to Byron. Colt can be thrown into every single comp. He's so annoying. It doesn't really take any skill to play him either. As I said, it's not too much skill just pressing that green button and winning your matchup all the time. I would say he's the best brawler probably on every single game mode, probably except for Bounty right now. But yeah, he's absolutely insane. Alright guys, this is going to be the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed. This took me a long time to make, so I'd appreciate you guys let me know in the comment section below whether you enjoyed this video. But as I said, I won't take the exact placements as literally as the only answer to these. I would say in and around these brawlers should be where they're ranked, just because it's really hard, because there's a lot of these brawlers are map dependent and mode dependent. So in certain situations, some of these brawlers can be like the best in the game, some of them like the worst in the game. But yeah, from how much ladder I've played and competitive, I would say this is pretty strong ranking. But let me know what you think in the comment section below regardless. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe guys, and I'll see you guys next time.